The doorbell rang. The door slowly opened. The phrase died in his mouth. In the doorway, paralyzed and with his mouth open, stood a man in a leopard print shirt open to his navel, thick gold chains, tight black pants, and sunglasses. He looked like a gigolo. In one hand, a bouquet of red roses. In the other, a bag that had just fallen to the floor, causing a round rubber toy to roll slowly until it stopped right at my father's feet. "Ricardo, what the hell are you doing here?" It was the most hilarious Friday of my life. But before continuing, let me go back a bit and tell you how we got to this embarrassing scene. This is an original story from the channel, When the Masks Fall. With 25,000 subscribers, there are new channels out there posting my videos as if they were theirs, and this greatly harms my work. If you realize you're not on the original channel, please leave and look for the real one. Now, let's get to the story. My name is Eloia E. I'm 23 years old and I have a degree in accounting. Just like my mother. I live in São Bernardo do Campo, in the ABC Paulista region, in the house my mother bought on her own, even before she met my father. My parents separated when I was 9 years old. It was a divorce without a fight, without flying dishes. The love between them ended, and each went their own way. My father packed his bags, kissed my forehead, promised to see me on weekends, and left. My mother, Christina, was an accountant. She made old-fashioned jokes, danced forró alone while making lunch, and had a fern named Genoveva, which she would scold when it wilted. The only person she truly mocked was herself. My father, Arnaldo, had been a civil servant at the city hall for over 20 years. Honestly, even I don't really know what he does there. He's the kind of employee who works with paperwork and bureaucracy. One Saturday, when I was about 13 years old, my father took me for a drive. He was all dressed up, wearing cologne. "Daughter, today you're going to meet my girlfriend Ursula and her daughter, Sophia." Oh, that was it. He never dressed up so much to go out with me. We went to the mall. The two of them were waiting in the food court. Ursula was smiling a lot. A smile that wouldn't go away for anything. They say a genuine smile doesn't last more than 4 seconds. Hers lasted almost 4 hours. Sophia was an 8-year-old child of the type who thought the world revolved around her. In the middle of lunch, she threw her juice glass on the floor and crossed her arms because the juice was the wrong flavor. Ursula didn't reprimand her. She kept smiling. My father apologized to the girl, ran to the restaurant and bought another juice. Sophia didn't even thank him. I went home and told my mother. "Mom, Dad's girlfriend didn't stop smiling at me for a second." My mother slowly lowered her book, took off her glasses, and chuckled. "Oh, my daughter, nobody works overtime smiling for free. She wants to show her father that she's going to be the best stepmother in the world." We burst out laughing. My mother was my best friend, and one thing I can say for sure, she was always right. A few months later, my father married Ursula. The Saturday outings gradually decreased, the kind you don't even notice when they stop. I ended up seeing my father 3 or 4 times a year. The years went by, and then life did what it does best. It messes everything up. I was almost 15 years old when my mother found out she was sick. The first thing she said when she came back from the doctor was, "Eloia, don't worry. Everything will be all right." It was 4 years of treatment, but my mother remained strong and resilient. In the midst of all this chaos, I took the university entrance exam and passed in accounting at the Federal University of Minas Gerais. My mother cried as if she were the one who had passed. A few days later, my mother was hospitalized. Every time I came to visit, she had only one request. "Eloia, water Genoveva. That rascal needs water." I watered her, and even talked to the plant. I thought that if I kept Genoveva alive, I would keep my mother alive too. If only life worked that way. My mother never came home. My father helped organize the funeral. He showed up alone in a black suit. He took care of the burial papers. To be fair to him, he fulfilled his role as a father that day. Before leaving, he came to me. "Eloia, if you want, I can stay here with you for a while. I'll bring the Ursula and Sophia, and we'll help you get organized." I said yes without thinking twice. I was only 18 years old. I didn't know how a house worked. Property tax, bills, paperwork. My father worked with bureaucracy all day. He was the right person to teach me. The next day, they rang the doorbell, all 3 of them with suitcases in hand. Ursula arrived with a practiced morning look. Raised eyebrow, little hand on her chest, heavy sigh. Every 3 steps. My father was truly upset. He lived in that house for over 10 years with my mother, and you could see the nostalgia mixing with sadness in his eyes. Sophia came behind, cell phone glued to her hand. The first week was calm. My father fixed the things that needed fixing. Ursula cooked. Sophia kept to herself with headphones on. In those days, I even thought I had judged Ursula wrongly years ago. That big smile at the mall might not have been fake. It was in that first week that Dr. Raimundo called me to his office. He was a partner in the accounting and law firm where my mother worked. I received the news. My mother had left everything organized and paid in advance. The firm's lawyers would take care of the probate, the inventory of assets, and the transfer of the house to my name. I didn't need to worry about anything. Before I left, he told me, "Eloia, when you graduate and want to start working, remember us? The job is yours, even before you ask." I thanked him and cried all the way home. My mother was still carrying me. It was around that time that college enrollment opened. My father asked, "Eloia, aren't you going to enroll?" Going to Belo Horizonte meant leaving my mother's house abandoned for 4 years. I thought about postponing it. Then came the offer. "Elo, the lease on our house is about to end. We can stay here while you're at university. Pay the bills, take care of the house, keep everything in order. You don't have to worry about anything." It was the perfect solution. I could continue with my studies, something my mother wanted more than anything, and the house would be safe. I said, "Yes, without hesitation. I'll be back during the holidays, okay?" "Of course, my daughter. The house is yours." I rented a small apartment in Belo Horizonte. I packed my mother's most precious things, photos, wedding rings, jewelry, books, and stored them at the back of my locked bedroom closet. I packed my bags, picked up Genoveva, and my father drove me to Belo Horizonte. It was more than a 7-hour drive, which is why I ended up going home very little in the following 4 years. And when I did return, Ursula was an exemplary hostess. Lasagna, a carefully prepared meal, a tight hug, gingerbread cookies at Christmas. I noticed some things had changed around the house, but it didn't bother me. They were living there. It was natural that they needed to feel at home, too. In my last year of college, I couldn't even go back for the holidays. Thesis, internship, final exam, everything piled up. And that's how I graduated in accounting, with a good grade, a nice resume, and the Genovese still alive on the windowsill of my studio apartment. My mother would be proud. I called Dr. Raimundo the week of graduation. "Hello, Dr. Raimundo. This is Eloia, Christina's daughter. Do you remember me?" "Eloia, of course I remember. How are you?" "I'm fine, thank you. I just graduated. I wanted to know if that position was still available." He laughed. "Eloia, your position is waiting for you. I'll see you next Monday." "Monday is perfect." I hung up, smiling. It was the second time my mother was taking care of me after she passed away. I gathered my things, grabbed the Genove, and went back to... I was hitchhiking to San Bernardo with a friend. I didn't tell anyone at home. I wanted to surprise them. My friend dropped me off in front of the gate. I grabbed my bags, carefully held Genoveva, and went to the door. I put the key in the lock. The key didn't go in. I tried again. It didn't go in. I rang the doorbell. I rang again. When I was starting to think there was no one home, Ursula opened the door. She looked at me, looked at my bags, looked at Genoveva in my arms. They looked back at me. The expression of someone who didn't understand anything. "What are you doing here, Eloia?" "Hi to you too, Ursula. I finished college, so I came back home." "Did you change the locks?" My key didn't go in. She remained standing at the door, not letting me in, with that frozen smile. I looked over her shoulder and saw my father coming down the stairs with wide eyes. "Eloia, you didn't tell me you were coming." I wanted to surprise them. "Dad, why isn't my key working?" We had to change the locks for a more secure model. There were a lot of break-ins on the street, and we forgot to tell you. Ursula looked at my dad with a funny expression, but I decided to forget about it then. She slowly moved out of the way, and I went inside. I gazed at the room, and my jaw just dropped. A living room painted lilac, a new purple sofa, strange furniture, portraits of Ursula, my father, and Sophia scattered across the walls. The 3 of them on the beach, Ursula and my father at the altar, Sophia blowing, an old woman, not a single portrait of my mother, not a single portrait of me. It was as if we had never set foot in that house. Dad, where are my mother's portraits? My father was already beside me, his hand on my back. Eloia, daughter, come here for a moment. He pulled me by the elbow with a firmness I didn't recognize, towards my mother's office. He pushed the door open. My mother's office was no longer the office. My mother's office had been turned into a TV room, with a gray corner sofa, a television the size of a window, and a video game console. Her diplomas, computer, and accounting books were gone. In place of my mother's favorite rug was a shaggy white rug that looked more like a sprawled-out polar bear than a rug. My father closed the door behind us. Dad, where's my mother's office? Where are her things? He said, whispering. Eloia. Speak softly, for God's sake. I crossed my arms and waited. Daughter, you remember when I met Ursula? I was renting, right? I remember. A small apartment above a bakery. And I lied to her. I said I had my own house, but that I had left it for your mother to live with you after the divorce. That I was a responsible father who gave up the house for my daughter. Dad, are you serious? It was our first meeting, daughter. I wanted to impress her. I didn't know I was going to marry her. But you did. And so much time had passed that I didn't have the courage to tell her I lied. He continued in an even lower voice. When your mother passed away and we came here to support you, me, she started dropping hints. Me, saying that now the house would be mine again, that when you graduated, you would leave here, that now we finally had our own house, that she could decorate it however she wanted. I stood there, processing. So that was it. In Ursula's mind, she was the new mistress of the house. Every painted wall, every piece of furniture changed, every portrait hung. She was exercising the right she thought she had, and I, in this whole story, was just the stepdaughter who came to visit once a year. I was the guest in my own house. Daughter, I tried to hold back. At first I told her not to touch her mother's things, but she kept doing it anyway, little by little, and I never had the courage to tell her the truth. He scratched the back of his neck. Honestly, I was caught off guard today. I didn't expect you to come back so quickly. I thought you were going to stay a little longer in Belo Horizonte. I expected you'd get a permanent position there. I looked at him. That was worse than anything he had ever said. So, Dad, you were really hoping I wouldn't ever come back home again, right? No, daughter, that's not it. We need to tell her the truth. Daughter, give me a few weeks. I'll think of a way to tell her without ruining my marriage. Please, I'll tell you. I beg you. Don't tell Ursula anything. I felt the heat rising to the back of my neck, but I looked at his dejected face with such visible shame it was pitiful. I remembered that this man was the only father I had. 4 years after my mother passed away, I didn't want to lose him too. I shook my head and swallowed hard. Dad, it's fine by me if you continue living here with me, but you need to tell Ursula that I own this house. I know, daughter, I know. I'll fix this, I swear. Okay, I'm going to my room. Eloia, wait. Your room is Sophia's room now. She wanted your room because it was bigger, and you spent more time away than here. We let her. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. That was my childhood room. My father had the nerve to give it to his stepdaughter without asking me, just because she wanted it. And where are my things, daughter? I gathered everything that was yours and put it in your mother's room, including the things that were here in the office. Every box, every paper, every photo. I didn't let Ursula touch anything. Your mother's room is locked. I was silent for a few seconds. I had a lump in my throat the size of the house. Of all the crap he told me, it was the first thing that sounded like a father to me. He took a key from the drawer and put it in my hand. Go upstairs, daughter. Everything's there, I promise. I took the key, held onto my hand, and left the office without saying anything else. I climbed the stairs slowly, past the door to my old room, and heard tick-tock music leaking from inside. I didn't stop. I went straight to my mother's bedroom door, and everything was really there, just piled up. Cardboard boxes stacked almost to the ceiling, plastic garbage bags with my clothes inside, books thrown in the corner, my mother's diplomas on the desk, the picture frames that used to be all over the house piled on top of the bed where she slept, some with the glass still broken, cracked. It was a messy room, the corner where my father dumped the memory of my mother and my entire life so that Ursula could decorate the house however she wanted and so that my stepdaughter could have the room she wanted. I placed the Genovese on top of one of the boxes, sat on the edge of the bed, and closed my eyes. "Calm down, Eloia. Everything will be all right," I repeated softly, standing there amidst the boxes. I never imagined that from then on, I would spend almost a month as an inconvenient guest in my own home. Ursula had changed her skin in a matter of hours. The kind woman who welcomed me on vacation with lasagna and a tight hug had vanished. In her place appeared the wicked stepmother who had been there all along. Beneath that smile, she sighed loudly, banged the pan, rolled her eyes. When I asked a simple question, I would wash a glass, leave it in the sink, and in 3 minutes, she would pass through the kitchen, grumbling loudly. Some people never learn to keep things in order. There was no place. She only cooked meals for 3 people. Coming home from work, the food was always on the table, 3 plates served, 3 chairs occupied, no food for me. But I endured it quietly for my father's sake. He had asked me for some time off, and I had given my word. I had already started the job with Dr. Raimundo. Decent salary, meal allowance, health insurance. I arrived home full of pride. I told my father how it was going. He gave me a happy smile, daughter. Ursula came out of the kitchen wiping her hands on a cloth, her smile occasionally returning. "Eloia, that's great. Now that you'll have a fixed salary, you can even start looking for a place of your own. I know some cheap apartments on the other side of town. Well, for someone who's starting out, your father and I can help with the rent until you get settled." My father looked at me anxiously for a second, lowered his head, and went back to his cell phone. I smiled. "Thank you for the offer, Ursula, but I prefer to stay here," she smiled. She turned around and looked at my father, as if to say, "Do something." Then Saturday arrived. I woke up to an odd silence in the house. On Saturdays, Ursula usually had been in the kitchen since 8 a.m., banging pots and pans like an army band. That day, nothing. I got up and went downstairs. The kitchen was empty. The living room was the same. I looked out the window. My father's car wasn't in the garage. His sneakers had disappeared from the doormat. I thought to myself, they went for a walk and left me behind. That's okay. And to tell the truth, I took advantage of it. I had breakfast in peace. I sat in my living room and read a book with the house silent for the first time in almost a month. I took a nap. When it was 10 p.m., I thought it was strange that no one had come back. Could something have happened? I picked up my cell phone and called. My father gave me voicemail. "Ursula." It rang and went to voicemail. I called again. She answered. "Hello." Tropical music in the background. Sounds of people talking and laughing. "Ursula, where? Are you here?" She let out a short, acidic, joyless laugh. "Oh, darling, we're in Bahia. All-inclusive resort." "Wonderful." Silence from my side. "You traveled and didn't even tell me." "Of course not, Eloia. Since when do we need to give you an explanation for anything? We're on a family vacation." Then she said, with that alcohol-laden voice, "And you know what, Eloia? You're a parasite, an adult who refuses to grow up and live her own life. You live in our house, eat our food, use our electricity, water, gas, as if it were your right. You have 1 week to pack your things and leave. If we come back and you're still here, I'll kick you out myself." I heard Sophia laughing in the background. "Goodbye, darling. Enjoy your last days there in my house." And she hung up. I sat in the kitchen with my phone in my hand, motionless for about 2 minutes. And then, instead of crying, I laughed, a small, ironic laugh, the kind you give when you understand something all at once. That woman called me a parasite and wanted to kick me out of my house. I had endured it for almost a month in the name of a promise that I now knew he never intended to keep. That phone call was the last straw. Ursula thought she was going to kick me out of my house. She couldn't tell who'd kick whom out. I put my cell phone on the kitchen counter and stared blankly for a few seconds, thinking. I began putting the plan together. Item 1. Change all the locks. Item 2. Go to the market and get cardboard boxes, buy tape and large garbage bags. Item 3. Pack everything that belonged to the three of them and leave it neatly in the garage, ready for them to pick up when they return from Bahia. I went up to my mother's room, lay down on the bed, and fell into a deep sleep. On Sunday morning, I called the locksmith. In 2 hours, the man was there, changing all the locks on the house, including changing the code for the electric gate. Then I went to the corner market to ask if they had large cardboard boxes for... They gave it to me. They had it. I made 3 trips carrying a bunch of boxes. Then I came back and bought some rolls of duct tape and garbage bags. Returned home, dumped everything onto the lilac room floor. It was time to pack. I started in the living room, took the picture frames off the wall one by one, and stacked them all inside a box, with the glass bumping against each other. If it broke, too bad. It was the same treatment they had given my mother's portraits. I collected the patterned cushions from the purple sofa, the decorative vase from the corner, the new lamps, and the faux fur throw on the backrest. Everything inside the boxes. I stacked everything in the garage. I went to the kitchen. I collected the new dishes, the pots and pans, the mugs with their photos printed on them, various odds and ends that Ursula had bought, box after box, garage. I went to the office that had become the TV room. The television, the size of a window, was the hardest part, almost my size. I unplugged everything, wrapped it in a sheet from Ursula, was in the laundry room, and I dragged her to the garage. I went back to the video game. The controllers, the games, teams, the white shaggy rug, everything was crammed into a black garbage bag and thrown on the garage floor. I went upstairs to the 2nd floor. Sophia's room was locked. The 3 of them thought they would be safe, locking the upstairs rooms with keys. But there was a detail they didn't know. In that old house, all the bedroom doors used the same combination. The same key opened them all, and I had the key to my mother's room. I put it in the lock, pushed the door, and came face to face with Barbie's room. Walls painted bubblegum pink, white tealy curtains with twinkling lights, a white vanity with an oval mirror, overflowing with makeup, teddy bears on the bed. I ripped everything off with gusto, stuffing it all into black garbage bags. It was time for the master bedroom. The door was also locked. I put the key in and it opened. The room was red with gold details. Upholstered headboard of a tufted sofa, the kind that looks like a roadside hotel pretending to be luxurious. A huge mirror hanging above the bed. A plastic crystal chandelier. A gold satin comforter. Stacks of self-help books. The Secrets of the Powerful Woman. How to Keep Your Husband in Love. Probably none read to the end. And on the wall opposite the bed, a close-up portrait of Ursula, one of those from a photo shoot, with a smile like a double-page magazine and a look that says, "I am powerful," the kind of picture every self-respecting narcissist hangs up to wake up every day already praising themselves. I started with my father's closet. I piled the shirts, dress pants, and ties with pre-tied knots into bags. I went to Ursula's closet. Dresses, designer blouses, high heels I had no idea she wore. I threw everything haphazardly into the trash bags. Purses, scarves, belts. I got to the dresser, opened the first drawer. Socks, panties, bras. I pushed everything into the trash bag without looking too hard, but at the bottom of the drawer, I bumped my hand against something heavy. I stopped. Ooh! Took the panties off the top. It was a cell phone. It wasn't Ursula's everyday cell phone. She had taken that one to Bahia. It was a different device. A simpler model, hidden at the bottom of the panty drawer. Nobody keeps an old cell phone at the bottom of a panty drawer. I sat on the edge of the bed and pressed the power button. It had battery. The facial recognition screen appeared. I looked at Ursula's portrait on the wall, with her magazine-worthy smile and the confidence of someone who's the smartest woman in the world. I held my phone up to the portrait. Unlocked. The phone only had WhatsApp installed and a single conversation. Ricardo, profile picture of a man in his 30s with a paint roller in his hand. Calm down, people. A paint roller. I opened the conversation. The last messages were from the day before the trip. Ursula sent, "I'm going to Bahia. Too bad it's not with you. I'll be back on Friday." Ricardo replied, "I'll miss you. Have a good trip, my little bear." My little bear. I read that about 3 times and still couldn't process it. Ursula was having an affair. She was cheating on my father. I started scrolling. Messages, 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 messages. I just kept scrolling, and what I found left my mouth hanging open. Each of their meetings was a different fantasy. About 3 months ago, Ursula sent, "Honey, tomorrow you're coming from motorcyclist? I find it so sensual. I want you to come in a black jacket, black pants, me, helmet in hand, and don't forget my toys, app." Further up, another message from Ursula. "Up there," Ursula wrote, "tomorrow, you'll be dressed in a suit, tie, and briefcase, trying to collect a debt I can't pay." Ricardo responded, "Caca, you're hopeless. I'm gonna ask you to pay the debt in a different way." Devil emoji. There was a message where Ursula asked him to bring his firefighter costume and said, "Come use the hose to put out my fire." I closed my eyes and opened them again, thinking I had misread. I hadn't. Each meeting was a different costume. Firefighter, biker, executive, doctor, plumber, NET technician who came to fix the router, and always the same phrase at the end of the message: "Don't forget my toys." The toys? I found a picture of what the toys were. An assorted package of things that no neighborhood supermarket sells. Chubby rubber things, plush handcuffs, eyes, candles. From what I understood, the meetings took place at my house, always on afternoons when my father and Sophia were out. I read a message from Ursula. "Honey, Tuesday afternoon my daughter is getting highlights in her hair and it will take a while. I have the whole house to ourselves from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Come dressed as plumber." I looked at the bed where I was sitting and stood up immediately. That bed had seen things I, in my 23 years of life, had never even imagined. In the middle of that pile of messages, I noticed some Pix payment receipts from Ursula to Ricardo. I scrolled up the entire conversation to the first message. It was from a year and 2 months ago. And guess what? Ricardo was the painter who painted the house. He's the one who left that room lilac. And apparently, Ursula couldn't resist a man with a roller in his hand. The first message in the conversation was from Ursula. "Hi, Ricardo. It's Ursula from the house you painted last week. Do you remember me? I bought a different number just to talk to you. Is what we agreed on that day still on?" He replied. "Hi, Ursula. Of course I remember. How could I forget? Is it still on?" "Yes, just let me know," Ursula sent. "Wednesday at 2nd visit at my house. That's fine. How much will you charge me for this first visit?" Ricardo replied, "I'll give you a discount because I liked you. $100 an hour, plus the cost of whatever you want me to buy for you." Ursula said, "Okay, I'll pay you after the service. Buy some eyes and toys." I closed my eyes. So that was it. The pictures Ursula took for Ricardo between messages were to pay for his extra services, and he even charged by the hour. And my cuckolded father, who wanted to keep the marriage together at all costs, was paying for his own infidelity. What irony. I turned off my cell phone. I'd seen enough. I didn't put it back in the underwear drawer. I put it in my pants pocket. That little device was going to be the script for my Friday. The plan was already perfectly formed in my head. I finished emptying the couple's bedroom. In 2 hours it was empty. Only Ursula's smiling portrait remained on the wall. On Monday morning, I went to work as usual. After work, I went to the paint store on the corner and bought the original colors of my mother's house, beige and white. Every night, after work, I'd paint a room. I advertised the purple sofa for a pittance. In 2 hours, I already had a buyer. I bought a new sofa online, beige, simple from the way my mother liked it. In less than a week, the house was almost back to how it was before. My mother's portraits were back on the walls. The office was back to being an office, and the Genovese vase was back on the kitchen windowsill. The house seemed to breathe again. On Thursday night, my father decided to show signs of life. He sent me a message. "Hi, daughter. We're coming back from our trip tomorrow. We'll arrive around 5 p.m. When I get there, I'll explain everything." I looked at the message and laughed. Explain everything? He'd had a whole month to explain everything. Several years, actually. And yet he preferred to defend the wickedness of his stepmother and the tantrum of his stepdaughter instead of siding with his daughter. I didn't want any more explanations from him. I took Ursula's cell phone, turned it on, pointed it at her picture, and opened Ricardo's conversation. I sent a few messages. The next day, I worked normally, had a normal lunch, a normal shopping basket. At 5:30 p.m., my cell phone started vibrating with messages. My dad reported that the gate remote had stopped working and that the back door key was locked, and then he asked if I was home. Ursula sent a message, asking if there had been any issues with the gate and also asking why the door wasn't opening. Sophia asked me to reply that they were stopped on the sidewalk with their car full of suitcases and she needed to go inside to use the bathroom. I didn't reply to any of them. I finished the spreadsheet that Dr. Raimundo had asked me to close by the end of the day. I left the office at 6 o'clock sharp. When I turned the corner onto my street, there they were. The three of them, in front of my gate, suitcases on the sidewalk, nervous faces, me sweaty. I arrived calmly with my backpack on my shoulder. Ursula, when she saw me, came towards me, looking like she was going to hit me. Eloia, did you break my gate? Hi to you too, Ursula. I put the key in the lock of the door next to the gate. It turned on the first try. Did you change the lock on my house? How cheeky. Can you believe someone changing locks on someone else's home? She yelled in the middle of the street. The neighbors started looking out of their windows. My father came after her, his voice begging her to stop. Ursula, calm down. For God's sake, calm down. We'll talk inside. Sophia crossed her arms and was more direct. Elo, honestly, you're already graduated, you already work, you already earn money, go live on your own, stop living off other people's charity. I looked at her and laughed, shaking my head in denial. I pushed open the front door and invited, come in. The three of them came in. Ursula huffing and puffing and complaining loudly. My father, red-faced, came in with some suitcases. Sophia ran to the bathroom. I opened the living room door. Ursula went into shock, stopped in the middle of the room, looked at the beige wall, looked at the new sofa, looked at the portraits of my mother hanging where their portraits used to be, looked at the floor, at the curtains, at everything. What? What did you do in my house, Eloia? Where's my purple sofa? I remained calm, holding the doorknob. My father looked at me with a face like he'd never seen me before. Eloia, you've gone too far. I looked at him. Should I tell them or should you, Dad? He turned white. Eloia, let's go to the TV room to talk alone. I don't want to talk anymore, Dad. Should I tell them or should you? Ursula paced the room, looking at every corner with a horrified expression. Eloia, I'm going to call the police now. You broke into my house. You messed with everything. In my things. You stole my furniture. Get out of here before I call the police. Arnaldo, tell your daughter to leave now. Sophia laughed and went upstairs to her room. In 3 seconds, we heard the scream.
No. What happened to my room? In a few seconds, she came down, sniffing loudly, tears streaming down her face, and went straight into Ursula's arms. Mom, she took everything apart. My posters, my teddy bears, my clothes. There's nothing left, Mom. It's empty. Ursula hugged her with one hand and looked at me over her daughter's shoulder, with a face that looked like she was going to cut me to pieces. Arnaldo, do something. My father came to me. Daughter, let's sit down and talk like civilized people. Ursula turned to him. What do you mean talk, Arnaldo? Tell your daughter to leave now. Either her or me. I took a deep breath. I smiled. Ursula, you can scream all you want. If you want to. I'm not leaving this house because this house doesn't belong to my father, much less to you. She looked at me as if I were speaking Japanese. What are you talking about? This house is mine, Ursula. My mother left it to me. My father never owned this house. He lied to you all these years. Ursula turned to my father. My father stammered. No, it's not quite like that, honey. Eloia is just trying to annoy you. Eloia, stop it, daughter. I took a copy of the deed and the property tax bill from my backpack and handed it to her. Ursula took the paper. Her eyes scanned the document. Arnaldo, what she's saying is true. My father ran his hand over his forehead, pulling his hair back. He took a deep breath. Honey, let me explain. When I met you, I wanted to impress you. I ended up lying, saying that I owned a house. This house always belonged to Christina, and when she passed away, the house went to Eloia. I regret lying to you. I swear, I messed up badly. Forgive me. Ursula looked at the paper, looked at my father, then back at the paper. Arnaldo, you lied to me all this time. You made me think all these years that this house was mine. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and when she opened them, she gave my father a stare. The kind that makes your heart stop beating. But then she breathed again, turned to me, softened her voice, and changed her mask like she changes her shirt. I'm sorry, Eloia, for the way I spoke to you outside. I was out of my mind. Everyone's worked up. Let's sit down and talk calmly. I remained silent. Let's think this through with a cool head. We're a family, aren't we? Families argue sometimes. I stayed quiet to see how far she would go. The house is big. There's room for everyone. Sophia has already made friends here in the neighborhood and is studying nearby. It doesn't make sense for us to be fighting now that it's all cleared up. We can live together in harmony. She took a breath and changed her tone to a more intimate one, as if offering an advantage. But if you don't want to live here with us, darling, I understand. We can help you in another way. I'll pay you a small rent in a place of your own, near Dr. Raimundo's office, so you can have your privacy. A furnished apartment. Everything in order. Right, Arnaldo? My father was quick to answer. Yes, daughter. Yes. Ursula is right. We'll pay rent for you near your work. You'll be independent, at peace. Look at the audacity of these people. Until last week, she wanted to kick me out of here, yelling at me, calling me a parasite, and now she wants to live with me, share the house in harmony, or pay rent for me to move out and leave my house just for them. Did she really think I would accept? My father seized the opportunity. Daughter, your mother wouldn't want to see us fighting over the house. Your mother would want to see her family living in harmony. What a farce. He had no idea what my mother would want, but I did. My mother would have grabbed the broom and shoved the trash out of her house the first time those people snapped at me. I'd want them out before the first time, to be honest. Sophia, who was on the living room sofa, huddled up, crying softly in her disarray, listening to everything, raised her head and changed her tone. Elo, little sister, you can't kick us out of here. I consider you my real sister. This Sophia and Ursula were two peas in a pod. It was at that moment that the doorbell rang. I looked at the clock. 6:30 in the afternoon. How punctual. Everyone stopped and looked at the door. I picked up the intercom and didn't say anything. I just pressed the button to unlock the door. We heard someone walking across the garden just a few seconds later. The door opened, a loud voice saying, "Little Bear! X." The sentence died on his lips. Ricardo was there, just as the little bear had asked. Leopard print shirt open to his navel, 3 thick gold chains on his chest, tight black pants, sunglasses on a late afternoon. He looked like a gigolo. In one hand, a bouquet of red roses. In the other, a bag. When he glanced into the room and saw my father standing near the door, Ursula frozen, Sophia crying, and me, arms crossed, leaning against the doorframe, Ricardo froze mid-sentence. The bag slipped from his hand and fell to the floor. And out of it rolled a round rubber toy slowly, until it stopped right at my father's feet. My father looked at the thing that had stopped at his feet with the face of someone who had seen a dead cockroach. He kicked it. The toy flew under the sofa. Then he looked up at Ricardo. "Ricardo, what the hell are you doing here? And why did you bring this thing?" Well, 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 my father knew Ricardo. Ursula turned white, looking like a polar bear. Ricardo looked at my father, looked at me, looked at Ursula, then back at my father. "Yes, Mr. Arnaldo." I came. He tried to start a sentence 3 times and froze all 3 times. "Not me, Mr. Arnaldo. It's just that I didn't know you would be here." He swallowed hard, realizing he was making the situation worse. He looked at Ursula with a pleading look. Ursula looked at Ricardo, confused, not understanding. Her eyes scanned his leopard print shirt, the bouquet in his hand, the bag on the floor, until she understood. Her eyes slowly rose and met mine. Her face changed in a second, from confused to terrified, from terrified to a look of wanting to scream. "It was you!" But she couldn't, because screaming that in front of my father was the same as giving herself away. I smiled at her. Honestly, I had planned everything perfectly. I chose Ricardo's outfit. I knew the time. I asked him to bring the toys, but the bag fell to the floor and the toy rolled slowly until it stopped exactly at my father's feet. That wasn't my doing. That was gravity working in my favor. Ursula turned her back and dashed down the stairs. She climbed 2 steps at a time. The others watched, not understanding why she was running. Not me. I knew exactly where she was going. Upstairs, you could hear the bang of the bedroom door opening, the sound of the dresser drawer being pulled forcefully. Then came silence, and immediately after, the scream, "Eloia, you little bitch!" The footsteps descended the stairs, now much faster than they had gone up. Ursula appeared at the foot of the stairs, red-haired and disheveled. I took my cell phone out of my pants pocket, raised it to eye level so she could see clearly. "Looking for this, little bear?" Ursula looked at the phone in my hand, took a breath. Her face changed to that look of someone about to lie outright. "What phone is this? I've never even seen this phone in my life." I looked at her. "Never even seen, Ursula. Are you sure?" I approached, raised the phone to her face level, and pointed the front camera. Click unlocked. Ursula froze in her tracks, her eyes wide with realization, processing what she had just done. She had unlocked her own phone with that ugly look on her face. "Give me back that phone." Too late. I threw the device to my father, who caught it in midair. Ursula turned to him. "Arnaldo, turn off that phone." This is Eloia's setup. She orchestrated everything to separate us. But my father was already reading. His eyes scrolled across the screen, scrolling up the conversation, scrolling down, scrolling up again. He lingered on some messages, lingered even longer on the photos. His complexion changed. Red, purple, gray. That gray look of someone who's been kicked in the stomach and is trying to process it. Ursula got worse along with him. She tried to snatch the phone from his hand once. My father shrugged. She tried again. My father took 3 steps back. Without taking his eyes off the screen, she turned to Ricardo, desperate, gesturing. "Ricardo, do something! Help here!" But Ricardo remained standing in the doorway, silent, not knowing whether to go into the room, run out, or feign a faint. He shrugged even more and stared at the floor. Then she changed tactics. She turned to my father with a victim's face. "Arnaldo, your daughter invaded my privacy. She took my phone hidden in my drawer. She violated my privacy. Is that right? Is that allowed, Arnaldo? Look at the nerve of this scoundrel. She just got caught cheating, and she wanted my father to worry about her privacy." My father didn't answer. He continued reading. Another minute passed. I saw his eyes stop on a specific part of the screen. He looked up from his phone, looked at Ursula. "You gave him money?" Ursula opened her mouth to deny it, but nothing came out. "You paid a man to cheat on me, Ursula? You paid a prostitute with my money?" Ricardo took a discreet step back, as if wanting to become invisible, but my father wasn't finished. He turned to Ursula, his wounded masculinity taking over, and swallowed hard. "Why, Ursula? Why did you cheat on me with this guy who dresses like a gigolo from the 70s? What did you see in him? I'm a hard-working man. I give you a home. I give you comfort. I give you love. You had no reason to do this to me, especially not with that shitty little painter over there." Ricardo, who until then had been quiet and withdrawn, seemed offended. He took off his sunglasses for the first time that night, took a step forward, and looked straight at my father. "Okay, I think it's best if I leave you two to talk alone. I'm leaving. But who's going to pay for my services today?" My father turned his face to Ricardo slowly, in that way a bull has just heard its last command. In 3 steps, he was on top of him. He grabbed Ricardo by the collar of his leopard print shirt and pushed him outside without saying a word, without giving Ricardo time to regain his balance. I ran to the intercom and unlocked the front door. My father threw Ricardo onto the sidewalk. He landed on his backside. The bouquet of red roses flew aside, But my father wasn't finished. He went back inside the house, went straight to the sofa, crouched down, and picked up the round rubber toy. He went out the door again, holding it in his hand, swinging it. Outside, Ricardo was already getting into his car. The driver's side door slamming shut, the engine starting. My father aimed and fired. The toy flew through the air, and its suction cup stuck to the car's rear window. Ricardo sped off. The car rolled down the street with the round toy stuck to the back window. My father came back, slammed the door, leaned against it, took 3 deep breaths, then turned to Ursula. "Ursula, it's over." His voice came out dry. "I want a divorce. You're not sleeping here another night." Ursula started to cry. That ugly, uncontrolled cry. Her face contorted. "Arnaldo, no, Arnaldo." It was a moment of weakness. "That's all. I love you. I'll never betray you again. I swear." Then Sophia came, trying to help her mother. She went to Arnaldo, looked at him with teary eyes, and said, "Dad, are you going to leave my mother? Are you going to do this to us?" Sophia never called my father Dad. Never. Always. Arnaldo or Naldo. But now, when the water reached her backside, she called him Dad. My father understood immediately. He wasn't as stupid as he seemed. I saw in his face that realization that took years to sink in. He was realizing he had been manipulated by mother and daughter for 10 years. He looked at Sophia and spoke softly. "Aha. Sophia, in 10 years you never called me Dad, never treated me like a father. You always treated me like the walking mail carrier who was married to your mother." He turned to Ursula. "I want both of you out of this house today." It was at that moment that I joined the conversation. "Dad, I packed everyone's bags. They're in the garage." My father turned to me. "What do you mean, daughter?" "I packed everything this week, after Ursula told me to leave my own house. Everything's in the garage. Call a moving company. Schedule it for tonight or tomorrow morning, because tomorrow's garbage day, and the truck comes in the afternoon. If you don't call the moving truck by tomorrow, I'm going to put the garbage bags with your things on the street." Ursula looked at me. "Seriously, Eloia? You threw our things in garbage bags?" I looked at her with the most tranquil face in the world. "I mirrored your actions regarding my mother's property and my own. Why do you seem so shocked, Ursula?" She swallowed hard and looked away. My father returned to the center of the room. "Eloia, daughter, I understand you. You have every right to want Ursula out of this house, but I'm your father." I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Dad. But you're leaving too." I paused and continued. "In all these years, you've chosen Ursula and Sophia. Always. When I told you about the portraits of my mother disappearing, you asked me to let it go. When you told me about the lie about the house, you asked me to wait. When they called me a parasite on the phone, you stayed silent. You always thought it was better to hurt your daughter than to lose your cheating wife and your ungrateful stepdaughter." He didn't answer. "Now I've chosen to stay away from you." Ursula called a moving truck through the app. In 20 minutes, the guy showed up. An old van, with the driver yawning. The 3 of them went to the garage and started putting boxes and black garbage bags into the van. I stood leaning against the door, watching. In 40 minutes, the van was full. Everything that belonged to them had fit inside. Ursula passed by me, stopped in front of me, and launched one last attack. "I hope you lose that house, Eloia. You'll never be able to maintain a house that size with that measly little salary of yours as a recent graduate. How are you going to pay the property tax? How are you going to pay all the bills alone? In 6 months, you'll be begging for help? And guess who won't help you?" I looked at her with the most serene smile I could muster. "Let me try to guess you. But that's obvious. You don't even have a job." Sophia walked past me next, hatred in her eyes. She flipped me off. "You bitch, I never liked you anyway." "I know, Sophia. Bye. Bye." My father was last. Backpack on his shoulder. He didn't look at me, didn't say anything. He put his things in the trunk of his own car. 2 black bags and a small box. He got in the car, started the engine and drove away. I didn't see where he went. I closed the door, turned the new key twice. For the first time in years, the house was all mine. The next morning, I looked at Genoveva on the windowsill. She had woken up greener, firmer, with a new little leaf sprouting on the middle stem. I smiled. It was my mother's way of communicating with me. 6 months passed. One Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I answered the intercom and opened the door. It was my father with a bouquet of daisies in one hand and a bag of fresh French bread and cake in the other. "Hi, Eloia. May I come in?" I looked at him, thin, his hair whiter than I remembered. He looked like he hadn't slept much in the last 6 months. Yes. He came in, looked around the room. Just the way my mother liked him, sat on the edge of my sofa, his hands on his knees. "Daughter, I came to ask for your forgiveness." I sat on the other side, leaving a cushion of space between us. "I wronged you in every possible way. Daughter, I was a coward. I was stupid. I neglected you to please a woman who was using and betraying me. I can't go back. But I wanted to ask if we could try to rebuild something, like coffee on Saturdays, a visit now and then. I just wanted a chance to be your father again." I looked at him. "Dad, I accept having you in my life, but each of us in our own space." He nodded. "Yes, daughter, I understand you." We were silent for a few seconds. Then he told me, "I divorced Ursula. Since she doesn't work, I have to pay alimony and rent. I rented a 1-bedroom apartment for her and Sophia on the other side of town. It was exactly the same little rental in a place on the other side of town that Ursula had offered me months ago. Now it was her home. Look at karma. I didn't say anything. I just served fresh coffee, butter for the bread, and cut the cake. We ate in the kitchen. Me, my father, and Genoveva on the windowsill. Today, every Saturday, my father shows up with bread and flowers. We have coffee, talk about the weather, about his work at the city hall. Genoveva has turned into a giant fern and taken up half the kitchen windowsill. My mother's office is back to being an office, now with our diplomas hanging on it. I got promoted to senior analyst at the company and got a raise. I bought another fern to keep Genoveva company. I named her Brigitte. The two share the windowsill, like two old friends sunbathing in the afternoon. And the round toy? That became a legend. They say that thing stuck to the rear window, swinging, rolled down the entire highway that Friday. His car had stickers on the sides with the phrase, "Ricardo, professional painter," and his phone number emblazoned in large letters. The joke spread. It became a photo on WhatsApp, a video on social media. In a short time, everyone in the ABC region knew Ricardo the painter as the painter who paints with a penis. This marketing campaign wasn't very good for his business. My mother always said, "Everything will be all right, daughter." And guess what? It really was all right, at least for me. If you've made it this far, leave the word gigolo in the comments. I love knowing who stayed with me from beginning to end. Thank you so much for watching until the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment to help me out. Big kiss and see you next time.